Hey everybody, happy Sunday. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, you are having an amazing holiday weekend. Yes, I recorded this the same time as I recorded our last chicken and garden update, but there's a good reason for this. It's because it is the holidays and I don't necessarily want to be filming these next week. So I'm filming them all today. Michael will colour them all today and then we'll release them in subsequent weeks. So this week and next week have all been recorded at the same time as last week's. I do apologise. The topics are going to be different though. So today's, we're going to be talking about our plans for the chicken and garden bits of our life this coming year. I mean 2023. Obviously we're just at the end of 2022, but hopefully you will all see this just before the end of the year and you'll be able to see some of the things that we are doing and talking about. Our first big challenge for the year has got nothing to do with chickens and gardens, but everything to do with our Starlink dish on top of the house. For those who know, we moved here in 2019 and I moved to this house. I still had a teenager living at home, my teenage daughter, who used a lot of internet. And so we signed up for our local Wi-Fi, which beams the signal down the valley to another house and then kind of piggybacks it down the valley to the local town. And that internet connection is pretty darned expensive, but it's also pretty slow, despite being quite reliable. So when Starlink came online, we were like, hey, let's give Starlink a go. And we replaced the 4G modem backup that we originally purchased for this house with our Starlink. And we've used Starlink now for about a year. And I'm just going to be really honest with you guys, because of some of the political things that have been going on, because of how Elon Musk has been treating minorities, because of some of the things that have been going on at Twitter and his treatment of staff, treatment of workers. We don't want to be Starlink customers anymore. We don't want to be Elon Musk customers anymore. And so a couple of weeks ago, we turned off our Starlink. We haven't got rid of it officially yet, but we're getting ready to. So Starlink was costing us about $120, $110, $120 a month. And we are going to fall back on our slower internet connection. It's going to mean that we're going to drop our internet speeds significantly. So going from, a peak of 100, 200 megabits per second down to a peak of 20 to 30 megabits per second. But it means that we're not supporting Elon Musk. And we've personally made that as a decision. I feel comfortable talking about that on take two. I don't know if I necessarily want to put that out on the main channel, but that's going to be the first thing. So that satellite there is going to stay because it's connected to the roof and I don't want to cause damage to the roof, but it's going to disappear in terms of we are not going to be Starlink customers anymore. When I'm recording this, we are about 90% sure we're going to cancel. We may still end up deciding we need it because there's some heavy weather, some bad snow coming, and Starlink would be the only connection that would work in bad weather. But I suspect that by the time this goes live, we will have decided to cancel that service. So that's the first thing. But now I want to show you some of the things that we want to change this year in 2023 with the garden. The first thing is here, this area here. It was caused by me moving all of the soil over there. And as you can see, it's not very well set up. So we need to get this leveled. And I think we're going to have to pay someone to come and level this properly, put a proper base down, and then we're going to extend a bit of tarmac driveway here. Now, I know some of you will be upset about that because tarmac's not necessarily a good thing. We may put gravel down instead, but the idea is that we make this an additional parking space or a place to do a J-turn because of how our driveway is and the way it's set up. It's very difficult, especially with a truck, to get the truck out and back onto the road. So having this as a standing area where we can put our trailers and we can have the Honda project car is kind of important. The other thing we're going to do is at the other end of our driveway, we're going to put 2 charging stations. Right now, and I'll turn this around so you can see, right now, all the charging stations are here at the other side of the truck on the house, but we are going to put charging stations up there towards the pump house. And the reason is we now have we now have 4 charging stations. We don't need 4 charging stations, but having 6 kilowatt charging stations over there that will be load shared on a 50 amp circuit allows us to continue to use the charging stations we already had before we bought the truck and before the span panel was installed. But it also means that people can come visit us and charge in without us having to do the car shuffle here to make sure that everyone charges. So right now, Michael is plugged in and charging. Kate is my Kate is plugged in, and the truck is charging. But when Kate, Walton, Elliot and Erin are both here, which they do fairly regularly when we have a video to film, we need everybody charging, and all of the charging stations need to be accessible. So that's 2 things. And then down here, we're going to make, I want to, see we've got some wood here. I want to make another bed or 2 in this space because I need to expand. Looks like a local cat has decided to dig up some of my strawberries, which I'm not very happy about. That must have just happened recently. But these beds are going to stay here, and then we're going to add some extra beds here. Moving down here, I want to build a greenhouse about where I'm standing right now. So the greenhouse is probably going to go here, and we'd like to set that up to use reclaimed materials. So we've gone to a local reclamation yard. We are looking at putting in some recycled windows and building some stuff there. So that will be very cool. That is a project for next year, and goats are a project for next year. My wife has kind of tacitly gone, yes, you can get some Nigerian dwarf goats, but before we can do that, we're going to have to block off our property. So this is the boundary effectively between our property and our neighbours. We have like 3 or 4 different neighbours here, and there's a pumpkin from Halloween just sitting there chilling out. We have a border. If you look through here, just through here somewhere, there are some markers. There you go, you can see them. See these green markers with the white tips? That is the corner of our property. So you can see that most of our property is not tree filled. We do have a couple of trees here, but for the most part, we need to actually put a proper fence up here, because if we're going to get goats, they are going to go everywhere. And so we need to install pretty high fencing all the way around our property to make sure that the goats don't escape. We also want to make some space here. My partner wants to build a wood shop here. I don't know if we're going to be able to. And the kind of the challenges, just so you can see the slope, the challenges of building a wood shop on that slope, it's pretty high. The other thing we want to do next year is we need to change our pump house. Our pump house, we have a derogatory name we call it, and I'm not going to tell you what we call it because it's a bad word. But we have a pump house that's in a really terrible state. And so we need to rebuild that next year. And that's going to mean kind of doing some tweaks there, and potentially building a tractor shed on. We have the tractor that we purchased, the $100 tractor, which is probably not going to be man enough to do the things I want it to do. One of you lovely people has offered us an Electrac, and I'm going to be reaching out soon and saying, yes, please, that would be lovely, because we'd love to have an Electrac here. I think we've got enough space in our yard to do it, and that would help it, certainly help us put in the fence posts that we've got to put in over the spring and into the summer. The other thing that we need to do, I'm walking up the slope here, is that we need to put in some fresh, what do you call it? Some fresh weed control stuff here to stop weeds from coming through, because this is our septic system and it needs to be accessible. So we'll be working on that. And finally, finally, it's the deck. You can see the deck we started sanding down But frankly, the deck has not been our top priority this year. So we need to rebuild the deck. There are parts of the deck that are loose and not going well. By the way, this is my weather station, in case you didn't know. So we're going to be working on that too. So those are the things that we are going to be doing this year in our garden. And I figured that it would be a good end to the year. We're also going to put a fence up front. So I think that's a whole year's worth of stuff. I don't know about you, but I think that is a whole year's worth of stuff. And if you have any thoughts about all of that, do let us know in the comments below and tell us if we're doing good things or bad things, or if we should reconsider stuff. Always open to suggestions. That is it for today's chicken and garden update. It is the penultimate one of the year. If you liked it, you know what to do. And feel free to tip us with a super thanks. The comments are open for your thoughts, as is the Discord chat room. There are links below. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow the links to regularly support us with a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin and Swag store. And do check us out on Mastodon. We have our very own server. It is very cool. It lives in my house. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing Charged Up supporters, and shout-outs go out to our self-driving tier supporters: Mike Weeder, Patrick Boyarski, Chris Maxwell, Brian Newton, Michael Goad, Bennett Elder, Andrew Martin, Pedro Mua Pinheiro, Brophy Wolf, Chris and Michael Johnson, Taslet in the Gong, Dan Blair, Peter Dillinger, Gordon C, Stephen O'Donoghue, Carl Hodgson, Anthony Coates, Raging Fellows, Denny Hyde, Chris Asental and Jim Vaness. Finally, out of this world thanks to our top tier supporters: Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, JP Fagerback, Joe Bresney, John Lyons, Rory Litwin, Kevin Burrowbridge, Dave Kitchen, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobneck, Paul Conway, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin and Ian. I'll be back soon, as all the rest of the team, with more awesome content. This week nobody's working, so it's going to be clip shows and other fun stuff to tide us over into 2023. But until next week, as always, keep evolving.